This dragon, they say his eyes are fire, his breath a white gas. You can see him burn across the dark lands. He runs with sulfur and thunder and kindles the grass. Sheep panic and die insane. Women deliver forth monsters. The dragon's fury is such that tower walls shake back to dust. Ray Bradbury penned this exemplary example of imagery in 1955 as part of the short story entitled The Dragon. Written originally for Esquire magazine, the short story would in later years be included in Bradbury's short story collections. Ray Bradbury, American novelist, short story writer, essayist, playwright, screenwriter, and poet, was born August 22, 1920 in Waukegan, Illinois. He graduated from a Los Angeles high school in 1938 and began selling newspapers on the LA street corners. He wrote numerous short stories before publishing his first collection entitled Dark Carnival in 1947. His career as a writer became very successful with the publications of The Martian Chronicles in 1950. The novel described the first attempts of Earth people to conquer and colonize Mars and the unintended consequences. Next came The Illustrated Man, and then in 1953, Fahrenheit 451, which many consider to be Bradbury's masterpiece, a scathing critique of censorship set in the future world where books are forbidden and burned. Bradbury would go on to publish more than 30 books, close to 600 short stories, and numerous poems, essays, and plays. He received numerous awards for his work and even received a star on the Walk of Fame in 2002. Sadly, Ray Bradbury passed away in Los Angeles on June 5, 2012, in his 92nd year. This short story reflects the psychological theories of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Sigmund Freud, a famous Austrian theorist, believes that the reason for man's actions is based on the conscious mind and that the mind is comprised of three parts: the conscious, the preconscious, and the subconscious. The unconscious makes up 80% of our mind and is divided into three parts: the id, the superego, and the ego. The id is our desires, what prompts us to act, and must be balanced by our superego, which is the moral side of our conscious. The ego tries to maintain balance between the id and our superego and stops us from acting on irrational thoughts. However, when our id is not in balance with our superego, we suffer from neurosis, and it will cause man to act irrationally. For example, in The Wars by Timothy Finley, Rodwell wanders onto the battlefield and commits suicide after being forced to watch the animals being tortured and killed. Freud would say that his id was to protect all animals, while his superego would have told him that you can't save everything. When those thoughts weren't in balance, it led to a neurosis as he began to have suicidal thoughts, which led to him committing suicide. In The Dragon, the id would have been the need to protect the innocent villagers by destroying the dragon. As they state, he eats men traveling alone from our town to the next. Their superego should have told them to investigate their thoughts, as the dragon never sets foot in the town. What reason could there be for the dragon to never attack people in the town if it enjoys eating humans? Their failure to investigate created an imbalance, resulting in a neurosis of irrational, violent behavior towards what they believe is a dragon. Their actions result in their death as they attack the train with their lances and are destroyed. Carl Jung, a Swiss theorist, has a similar yet different theory than Freud. He also believes that our patterns in behavior are based on our unconscious, unlike Freud, who believes all of our problems start at childhood. Jung believes our actions are caused by our collective unconscious. These have been a part of us since the start of man. Jung developed a list of archetypes that are universal to all people and are acquired by natural inheritance. People are compelled to behave in certain ways similar to our inherited instincts. If you resist your archetype, it may lead to neurosis or imbalance. In The Dragon, the men would represent the archetype of the hero. This archetype's core desire is to prove one's worth through courageous acts. For example, slaying a mighty dragon. How fitting that Jung also refers to the hero archetype as the Dragon Slayer. Jung also developed an extensive list of archetypal categories for characters groups which respond to situations in a similar manner. In the film review Men in Black and in Bradbury's The Dragon, the same archetypal character is evident. Each of the main characters is an unwilling hero. This group of people act in a heroic manner despite their fears. In Men in Black, the vehicle runs into an ambush, fights, then flees. They reach safety, rest, and turn around and return to the scene of the ambush. Most of us would have refused to return, knowing what was waiting. The same characteristics of the unwilling hero are evident in Bradbury's The Dragon. The two men are planning to attack and kill the dragon, but the second man is terrified. The man knows he will probably not survive and makes statements such as, "Even as we shall fail," and "On with our armor, we'll die well dressed." Despite his fear, he hears the sound of the dragon in the distance, puts his armor on, and attacks. Against seemingly impossible odds, he is the unwilling hero. The mission of the knights in The Dragon is also representative of one of Jung's archetypal themes. These themes explain the events of man, as Jung states that every situation is represented by an archetype. Jung would call the archetypal theme in this short story the task. In the task, something must be done to achieve something valuable. For example, the hero must perform this task to save the kingdom or win the fair lady. In The Dragon, the second knight expresses his fear, but the reader doesn't see that reluctant attitude from the first knight. He believes that they are on a mission to destroy the dragon as it eats men who travel alone on the road. The task is to save their town, friends, or anyone else that the dragon may have consumed in the future. Ray Bradbury's The Dragon contains every element of the short story that we studied in this course. The setting in the moors, possibly in the 1800s, as steam engines are the main source of travel. However, we also have two knights who believe they are in the Middle Ages in 900 AD. The story is written from an omniscient point of view and primarily involves two knights who are not named in the story. Their mistaken belief that the train is a dragon forms the main storyline in the work. There are two minor characters introduced at the very end of the story, being the two train engineers. They play a very minor role but are used to explain the twist in the story, allowing the reader to realize the ignorance of the knights. The dragon never existed, the knights have attacked a train. The climax occurs when the two knights collide head-on with the dragon. The theme of The Dragon would be the fear of the unknown and how ignorance leads to actions based not on reality but on your own perceptions. The two knights were ignorant of the new technology, symbolized by the train, and that ignorance led to their mistaken belief that the train was a dragon, which ultimately leads to their deaths. As a result of ignorance, we will often perceive something to be far different from the reality. The Dragon is a short story rich with literary devices as Bradbury uses metaphors and similes to enhance the vivid imagery of the story. He writes, "There was only the shake of horses' nervous skin, like black velvet tambourines jingling, the silver syrup buckles softly." The reader can visualize the simile's image of the nervous horse lightly shaking the stirrups being compared to a velvet tambourine creating a soft jingle. Bradbury uses another simile when he states, "lengthened bones like white wax." The image creates a sense of suspense as a howling, moaning wind has the power to melt landscapes and lengthens bones as if it were wax. Bradbury especially seems to appreciate the power of the metaphor. He provides images of his breath of white gas to describe the steam from the dragon's mouth. The unlidded yellow eye is used to describe the light on the engine. Bradbury writes, "See him burn across the dark lands," describing the line of smoke the dragon leaves in its wake. Bradbury compares the sound of the wind to 1,000 souls dying, or the dust swirling as the wind sprang full of dust from clocks that use dust for telling time. He describes the tension the men feel as they sit around the fire waiting for the beast. Darkness pumped quietly in their veins and ticked silently in their temples and wrists. His metaphor images are beautiful, vivid, and create a tone of appreciation, fear, and suspense. Bradbury uses personification with the description of the dragon. His eyes are fire in stating that they heard the dragon shrieking. Alliteration is also evident with the lines such as "small stones had simulated" and "black suns burning." Assonance is used in the lines "hither" and "thither" and "glints" and "glitters." There are also several examples of onomatopoeia with words utilized such as tickled, blink, poked, jiggling, gushing, and spurted. It's a short story full of literary devices meant to enhance the description of the moors, the moaning wind, the tension of the battle, and the ferocity of the dragon. The Dragon by Ray Bradbury is a simple yet enjoyable read with deep meaning contained within an exciting tale of knights, a dragon, and their impending confrontation. He is a master of imagery, and every reader will enjoy his ability to paint written pictures of the tension, suspense, and fear. I particularly enjoyed the surprising twist at the end of the story, which will cause the reader to pause and reflect on Bradbury's purpose for telling the tale. I recommend the story to readers of all ages.